Welcome to Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a
What's
light
your
on
story?
incredible. What does accessibility mean to you?
What's your mission? Welcome all to accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a light on incredible individuals and organizations and the work that they do. I am your host, Josh Basil. I'm a C4-5 quadriplegic, paralyzed below my shoulders, and a power wheelchair user. I'm the Community Relations Manager here at accessiBe and a passionate disability rights advocate and trial attorney focused on breaking down barriers to access and inclusion for people with disabilities. Today on accessiBe Spotlight Sessions, we're joined by Dr. Nasser Siabi, the Chief Executive at Microlink PC. Welcome, Nasser.
Good afternoon or good day to you, and so lovely to be here.
Well, it's lovely to have you on the program today, and I'm excited for our audience to learn more about you. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Oh, I can describe myself. I am 60, gray hair, wearing a white shirt, wearing glasses. I was born in Iran, and I moved to UK in 1978. So I've been here for around 45 years. I've made this place my home, and I've been working in disability area for nearly 30 years. Well, 32 years actually.
And what got you started in the kind of the disability world?
Well, I grew up with a visual impairment at a young age, which really seriously impacted my learning, and I would say lost my confidence hugely. And so when I came to UK for a medical procedure to restore my eyesight, I think I started from really very low base in terms of educational achievement. When I had my work, my medical treatment, it kind of gave me a fresh start. So I started at school, potentially one of the lowest achievers in the whole class, but with confidence, because I could see, I could learn. With confidence, I went on to do really great things in science. Did my doctorate in computer science, microelectronics in 1990. And by accident, I discovered a scheme where disabled students were getting government grant money to help them with their studies. So I I knew about computers. It was those days were really kind of a niche area, computers and solutions. So I started really using my knowledge to help those disabled students. That's where I started. And then for the past 30 years, we've helped hundreds of thousands of people, both in education and the workplace. So it's been one of the longest running pleasures in my life, best achievement, because you make such a big difference to people's lives.
I love that 100,000 number. That's
Well,
pretty impressive.
Is it 500,000, I think, according to my numbers?
All right, well, 100,000 to 500,000, that's absolutely incredible. And tell us a little bit about your work with Microlink PC.
Well, as I mentioned, I founded the company. I co-founded the company. My business partner, hugely successful man in the finance and racing driver, and former world champion in powerboat racing, but dyslexic. So the two of us could really work together to change the world. One of us with dyslexia, the other with a visual impairment. So I guess somebody once said, I guess one of you lacks direction, the other one lacks vision. That's a perfect partnership. But it's such a great partnership. I think it's really helped us amazingly to gel together, work together. We have a principle which is like titanium at its core, so tight. But we are two different people. We have a different kind of thinking, with different way of doing things, but the two together, we are awesome power together.
It's a dynamic duo.
Oh, absolutely. You couldn't find two differing people to work so closely together if you ever tried. The ideas and work practices, he's more visual, he's more fast, and I'm very kind of a slow, but I think long term, and it's a perfect combination.
That's awesome. And was there a moment of of when you wanted to found it with him, and kind of what was that moment, and kind of
Well, I knew him from a family relationship. It was related to my wife. But when first time we met, I realized he's got such a incredible background in terms of his business acumen. And I was just fresh out of university with some great ideas and big vision, the plans of how we could change the world. It was just a good getting together by two minds who wanted the same thing. So that was really a decision I haven't regretted in 30 years.
and over those 30 years, do you have a memorable moment or story you could share with us that kind of had a lasting impact on you?
Oh, tons of it. But two incidences really early on gave me such an incredible insight about the power of disabled people. So I had heard about this group of students in university where I graduated. They had some disabilities. I didn't know what type, but as a stereotype thinking, of course, having had my own experience of disabilities, I could have been much wiser. We could have been forgiven to actually knowing that look, disabled people are not judged by their condition. It's what happens to them. You have to really give them all the opportunities, and I'm sure they will come through like we did. But I still had that back of my mind. People maybe with physical mobility can't do a good job any better than the people who are, like able-bodied, or people with neurodiversity at the time was dyslexia. It's kind of it's a disability, and it's hard to find a way you could get people like that to become productive, like a typical person. As I said, that was early days. So a story came. Somebody told me there is this young kid. He was paraplegic, but actually he had severe physical disabilities, and he had a care worker, support worker, on a wheelchair. They rolled him into my office, and he couldn't even breathe without assistance. That's how bad it was. And I kind of felt, oh gosh, this poor kid wants to study. Why would he do that? That's a kind of it's not kind to him. He's got a struggle in education. He'll never make it. That's back of my mind. So the father came in and started saying, yes, this is Nick, and I heard you doing some technology for people, voice assisted technologies. I said, yeah. Anyway, so being rather patronizing, kind of tried to be kind to this young lad. I said, so what do you do? Oh, he said, I'm at the first year of law degree. Oh, I said, really? Where do you study? I'm thinking he's probably got through some sort of a concessionary course and he's doing a degree. Oh, yeah, I'm in Oxford, first year at New College. Oops. So, what is there a particular scheme? He said, yeah, it's called A levels. I said, oh, sorry, I didn't mean that. He said, no, I know what you thought, but this kid was so sharp. And sadly, he passed away because of complication with his in second year. But he was so bright, unbelievable. So I thought that's judging the book by its cover. I was guilty of that even at those early days. The second one, this was really another moment. I had this young person, 15-year-old, was referred to me, and he couldn't even spell his own surname, and he didn't know how to read, but he was. Then I said to him, well, so what do you want to do? He said, oh, well, I'm actually going to Cambridge this year to do a degree in history of art. He was 15. He graduated 3 years later. He was the youngest graduate from Cambridge since 1720. And he was totally dyslexic. I mean, you could look him up. His name was just Alexander Fludi. I hope I'm not giving away too much personal detail after 30 years. Still stuck into my mind. Such a bright person. Yet he failed in school, and his father had to fight the authorities to get him some support so he can go to Oxford. And in Cambridge, they gave him all the support he needed. So these two examples demonstrated how powerful, how incredibly creative and resilient disabled people can be. That's what really set my next 30 years of course of action.
I love it. No, it's kind of it's hard. What if you don't know, you don't know, and the more experiences you have, the more people you touch or get involved with or learn about, it's those unconscious biases kind of slowly get removed, and it's letting the world know that disability there's so many amazing abilities that can come out of it as well. I know when I'm wheeling down the street, people see my wheels first. Next thing you know, they see what comes out of my mouth and my mind, and then they learn all the things that I'm doing, and they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't. You're busier than I am." I'm like, "Yep, it's we do what we can, and just we're I just love that the amount of impact, the numbers of people that you've had. It's incredible. And what first comes to mind for you when you hear the word accessibility?
Well, that's really it. So those two examples gave me a good lesson that don't judge people from their appearances. Really, really easy. People can do that. And so I've learned everybody's good at something. In certain aspects, they're better than anybody else, but they can't do other things. So I look back on my own experience. I was a failure most of the junior and senior high school because I couldn't see. But yet, when I had the opportunity, when I had the help, I could actually do better than most people. So I think when we go back and look back on all the number of people we've helped, we know they have what it takes to succeed. They just need to have the opportunities and remove the barriers in their way. Take away the barriers, then you find that they can perform superpowers in certain aspects. And if they have difficulties, you're not going to be maybe as good as somebody who is typically able, but you can compensate for that for the other things you can do. One example I've always heard: people with vision loss, they have such incredible memories. They can hear so much better. And in certain jobs, that's a lot better than anybody else who can do it. They can do that job 10 times better. But in other aspects, if they can't do it, so what? That if you can remove the barriers, that's really, to me, equal access is not about just words. It's not about making maybe your website better, or maybe put a less access to a wheelchair user. It's actually designing your environment so that everyone can be at their best without having to ask for additional help.
And with removing those barriers and making that environment to being the best for that unique person, can you tell us a little bit about the role that kind of technology plays in making the world or the workplace more inclusive?
Well, we started our work on the premise we are creating a level playing field for people who struggle, let's say, with literacy. I mean, dyslexia is one which affects, or when I say affects, it's not a disease to affect them. 1 in 10 of the population could be classified as neurodiverse, as dyslexic. Those people who struggle with certain aspects of the day-to-day, particularly like with reading and writing, not all of them, but different types, have different impact. So what we can do for them, we can help people restore their ability to communicate with technology. So if you got dyslexia, you can't read, we can have text-to-speech to read it to you. If you have problem with writing, we can have voice-to-text. If you have visual impairment, we can actually have a screen reader. If you have hearing loss, we have ways of amplifying. It's not just hearing aids, but we have devices, and we can also use captioning. So technology restores people's ability to communicate effectively. That's number one. And number two, really, the ability to actually do your job better and easier. It's the same thing that most people, busy people, will find very useful as well. So we've just come a full circle. What is good for disabled people, it becomes such a powerful productivity tool for people who are not disabled. Everything I mentioned is become mainstream. After 30 years, you can see your fridge is talking to you. That was like 30 years ago technology for blind people to be able to read what's on a printed document. And now you can talk to your mobile phone and ask for instruction. This is a kind of technology developed by the likes of Dragon Neons many, many years ago to voice to text. So you can see everything that we've done to help disabled people is now become mainstream. That's the power of technology, transforming people's ability to do things better, easier, and obviously by that, your disability just disappears.
I love it. And so much of it, it's looked at as a reasonable accommodation, but in all honesty, it's a performance enhancer. It gives you the ability to perform at your highest levels. And to contribute in beautiful ways that without it, you might be limited, but with it, it's like you're unleashed.
It's a power tool, right? So whatever you can do better with assistive technologies. And, just imagine 20 years ago, maybe a bit longer, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there were no mobile phones with texting facility. How many deaf people do you know that could actually live their normal life without the telephone? Because they can now communicate using a text. How many blind people do you know who doesn't have an iPhone? Why? Because Steve Jobs designed a phone that was accessible, usable by every customer. And the blind people found, oh, hold on, I can now do things. I can be independent. That's what the power of the technology, inclusive technology, that is.
That's awesome. And what do you think are some of the biggest current gaps when it comes to businesses prioritizing access and inclusion?
Well, there are lots of drivers, apart from the legal. Every country has got is signed up to the United Nations Charter for Human Rights, and disabilities is in there, and you have to do the right thing in terms of, by law, you have to make workplaces more accessible. However, legal drivers are not always the best way to get employers to come run and do the right thing. They need to understand the business benefits. As I explained, it's not about keeping disabled people out of your organization. They're already in your organization. More people are becoming disabled every year. Aging population is one of them. More than 80% of disabilities are, we acquire them while we are in the working age. So it's not the kind of a choice of what do we do for people who are struggling. So in order for you to maximize your productivity is number one. Number two, in order to save your talent. So if you've got a very senior person with hearing loss, and if you do not make those accommodations for those people, that senior person, all that experience can go to waste. They can leave you early. You can retire. Then if you've got these obviously neurodiversity becomes such a well-recognized subject now. If you've got these neurodiverse talents in your organization who are struggling to get by because of all the barriers you put in, or even struggle to get into your organization, just imagine the enormous power, creativity, resilience they can bring to your organization, especially in the digital world where there's a skill shortage. So if you don't do the right thing, you lose talent, you can't access talent, and certainly you're going to lose productivity. And on top of that, you've got legal kind of challenges you get, the cost of going to lawyers trying to say, yes, I tried my best, but it just didn't work out. Or just imagine the conflict, the person who's struggling, disabled people are not there to create trouble. They just want to do their day-to-day. If they can't do their job and they struggle, they will actually, not only they get stressed, they stress the whole team. Sort out their problem, then you have a cohesion in your team, more productive team, and that is really what you gain. The gains are multiple. You don't need to threaten the employees with legal kind of action. If you show them the benefits of every individual performing even at 10% of their capability by giving them the adjustment, the cost of the kind of return on investment is multiple of the cost. So why wouldn't they do it? The only reason they don't do it is they don't know how. Not that they don't want to.
What I'm hearing is it's smart business to hire people with disabilities and retain people with disabilities and let them be a part of the journey.
You got these people in your organization. If you don't do something with them, you lose them or they will cause you trouble. Fix those people, then you find that there are more of those disabled people outside the organization. You say, why aren't we getting them fast enough? You tell your talent acquisition, go after them, because that's what's happening now. Biggest companies I work with, they're looking for neurodivergent talent because they know there are certain jobs they are better than anybody else. Why aren't we employing them? Because our recruitment is so bad, they keep failing at the first hurdle, and then we'll push them through so many hoops. At the end of the day, they just give up. Let's make it easier.
Let's do it. Nasser, thank you so much for being our guest today on accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions. Really enjoyed your insight, your words, and your time. Thank you so much.
And it's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
And to all of our guests, thank you so much to staying to the end. of accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions, make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us at accessiBe_community. And as always, thank you for being on this journey with us. Bye, everyone. Bye, Nasser.
Thank you.